Hello viewers, you're welcome once again to Clevenard TV. And today we have a very important guest with us, and his name is Barrister Nwobi Iceman. And I have my colleague here. Please, Madam Franca, kindly introduce yourself as well.
Hi viewers, good to be back with you guys. Barrister, you're welcome to my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Barrister, you're welcome to be with us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, sir, please can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. It is my pleasure to have been invited to this show. My name's Barrister Nwobi Ikechukwu Smart. I'm a legal practitioner, resident in South Africa, a solicitor, a barrister, as you know it, in the Commonwealth countries. Briefly, that's me. And in my firm, on my practice, we major, amongst other things, immigration, documentations. We deal with the issues of divorce. We deal with the issues, family laws, civil laws. In a nutshell, we are human rights attorneys in South Africa. I started here in South Africa. I did part of my matric, what we call WAEC in Nigeria, partly here, and I was inculcated in the system. I did my LLB. I got my LLB from University of South Africa, UNISA, and I also bagged my LLM, what we call master's degree in international law from the University of Pretoria. Basically and simply, that is me, and I've been practicing for more than 5 years. And to add, when I was a clerk, I've been within the corridors of practice for 10 years now. Thank you. That's briefly about me.
You said that you've been a barrister for a while now, with what you've said so far. Can you tell us some of your experience as a barrister working in South Africa?
My experience, I'll put it this way, my experience as a foreign barrister or attorney in South Africa, in the past, it was not easy for a foreign national to be admitted to practice in South Africa. Simply to say that the Law Society, there was what we call Law Society or legal practice councils, they regulate the admissions as well as the conduct of practitioners. If you're a foreigner, before you can practice here, you must have passed LLB of equivalent of 4 or 5 years, and you must go to law school. And after law school, then you have to do what we call a board exam. And after you've done your board exam, you must also do a compulsory article of clerkship. Then, most importantly, as a foreign national, you must be a permanent resident holder, what we call green card in the United States, or you must be a citizen in order to be allowed to practice having obtained all these qualifications. And it is not easy. We have our chauffeurs, you know, in a foreign land, your accent counts. In order for you to learn the laws of other country and to be assimilated in the system, there are other stigmas attached. And that's what we've been dealing with. It has not been easy, but with God, we're pulling through and we're making impact in this nation and contributing to the economy of this nation. So in a nutshell, it has not been easy, but the important thing is whatever a person sets his goal on and become committed, the rest will be a history. And that is the sheer experience as a foreign practitioner in South Africa. We do get a bit of my previous boss and other colleagues. Sometimes you rock up in court and when you're about to present a case and boom, wow, this looks like a foreigner. And your matter might be stood down. They'll call you into chambers. They want to actually know, how did you get to this level? But our predecessors has already, my previous boss is also a Nigerian. They've already cut across those hurdles that it is indeed that a foreign national who is duly qualified can practice, but it comes with a huge challenge as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We would like to congratulate you on your great achievement as a barrister, even in the foreign land. Sir? Okay, our topic today is all about Operation Dudula. What does Operation Dudula mean?
In simple terms, Operation Dudula, if you ask an ordinary person on the street, he or she will have his own interpretation of what Operation Dudula is. If you ask average South African or average foreigner on the street, they also have their own interpretation of what Operation Dudula is. If you ask an intellectual, they will tell you what Operation Dudula is. If you ask a politician, they'll also tell you what Operation Dudula is in their own different perspectives and vantage. But in simplest of terms, Operation Dudula is a program initiated by the South African citizens who are fed up of the inability of the government to deliver on the promises of the post-colonial or post-1994 or post-Mandela era. When I say post-Mandela era, prior to Mandela being released in 1994, 1993, as we all know about the history of South Africa, that South Africa went through apartheid system and the people were subjugated or subjected to a kind of bad treatment in the past. People were differentiated by virtue of their color, by virtue of them being a black. They were met with a lot of inhumane treatment. There are separate toilets for whites. There are separate toilets for blacks. There are hospitals that black people cannot visit. And there are hospitals that you are not allowed as a black person to even enter. There are separate doors, entrances. That is how entrenched apartheid was. And I can tell you that these inhuman treatment also have psychological effect on the Black populations of South Africa. Now, Operation Dudula now.
Hello there. Looking for an African movie? Search no further. Clevenard African Movies TV is here for you. We are dedicated to the acceleration of African films, TV series, documentaries, and lots more. Explore our movies at home or on the go. Clevenard Movies is free to watch on Clevenard.com. Don't miss this opportunity. Hurry now. Sign up and subscribe today.
You're welcome back to Big Talk on Clevenard TV. I'm still with Barrister Smart Nwobi, and we are still discussing Operation Dudula in South Africa. Now, before we went to the short break, Barrister was trying to analyze the concept of Dudula in South Africa. And Barrister, I'd like you to still take it up from there. Now, I'll come in this way. Before Operation Dudula, what was the relationship, okay, between the host country and then the African immigrants in South Africa?
The relationship were cordial prior to the release of Nelson Mandela. As we all know, the students of history, we all do know that the African countries, they rallied around in support of the movements, especially the ANC movement, the underground movement, to ensure that South Africans are liberated from the oppressions of the colonial masters that have come into the country and subjected them to slaves in their country. A clear example is Nigeria, that we all know. Back then, students were taxed to pay a certain amount of money from their pocket money reserved by their parents in order to support the movement for the liberations of Black South Africans. Not only that, most leaders, South African leaders, were being housed in most African countries. Most of them were equipped, were trained, and prepared for the task ahead. The relationship were cordial, and as you can see, at the early beginning of post-Mandela era, South Africa opened its doors to other African countries in extension of gratitude of the position they took during the time they had issues with the colonial masters. Then things were smooth, everything was going well. Then remember, the citizens had expectations. They had expectations. There was a 1996 constitution, there was a pre-1993 constitution, and the final constitution that was drafted that was made law in 1996. In that constitution, it was a skeleton, a kind of a foundation of what South Africa should look like going forward. Then there were a lot of promises being made in order to bring the ordinary South Africans back to economic power. The ruling party, ANC, made a lot of promises, amongst others. And this is more than 2 decades, more than 20 years after the change of power, and the people will look back and say, but what we are promised, we have not received what we are promised. We are promised houses, we are promised a lot of social amenities and grounds. These are not coming. And there was frustration. And this frustration is what brought about, in simplest of terms, Operation Dudula. The citizens feel that it is the foreign national that made them not to enjoy the dividend of the new democratic dispensations. They're looking for people or certain groups to blame, and politically, the politicians also will take advantage of that position. So basically, Operation Dudula is the fed-up citizens who are not happy with the situation of things in the country. Remember, although the Black South Africans has political power, but they do not have economic power. There has not been a balance. The economic power is still with the white minority of this nation. And that brings me to when people say xenophobia, then I tell them, no, it's not really xenophobia, it is Afrophobia, because the anger is channeled to Africans. Ordinary South Africa believes that it is the foreign nationals that have taken their positions, and that it is the bedrock of Operation Dudula. Thank you.
You made mention of the fact that the people are angry with the governments not being able to implement what they were promised. Okay, now, what is the government saying in all this? What is their stand in the whole fiasco?
Okay, this is actually a political question. You know, if a child blames you for not having delivered, okay, if you can see throughout the years, every year, there will be one protest actions or unrest in the nation that is targeted at service delivery. Every year, mostly every year, the people are not happy. And when this happens, the politicians, I stand to be corrected, will find a way to divert attention or to divert the cross subjects. And that's why you see every year there will be a xenophobic.
Clevenard in Diaspora Television is an internet online TV service. What sets us apart is a unique combination of hit African content, first and exclusive international free movies, series, musics, news, events, documentaries, tourism, teleshopping shows, youth TV programs, and live interviews. Clevenard Diaspora Television is available throughout sub-Saharan Africa and to the diaspora markets worldwide. Take your entertainment with you wherever you go. Watch on your smartphone, tablet, laptop, smart TV, depending on your device. Watch free movies with Clevenard Movies Television. Stop searching for free movies websites and watch Clevenard Movies Television. Watch your favorite African shows anywhere at any time. Don't forget to check out our top 5 TV channels created to get you informed. TV1, Clevenard in Diaspora Television. TV2, Clevenard Youth Television. TV3, Clevenard Movies Television. TV4, Clevenard Teleshopping Television. TV5, Clevenard Tourism Television. To start watching, sign up at www.clevenard.com and follow the easy steps. Once you're done, log into the Clevenard website or app on your device, click on any one of our 5 TV channels, and hit play. We will be very satisfied and happy to welcome you to our team as one of our new business partners. Contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com.
You're welcome back to Great Talk on Clevenard TV, still with Barrister Nwobi Smarts. All right, Barrister, before we went on the short break. We were trying to explain the government stand, okay, in the issue at hand. I'd like us to take it up from there. What is the government of South Africa doing to curtail the trend?
Okay. The government of South Africa there is a political coloration of the Operation Dudula. If you've watched the clips of most of the operation being carried out, you can see that the police, the metro, are always guiding the people carrying out these operations. Now, the operation is termed that undocumented foreigners. And if you saw a lot different clips going around, you can see a particular political party, a top politicians coming out strongly to say that they will also be targeting both documented and undocumented. But those are opposition party. However, our most concentration is on the ruling party. None of the top official has come to condemn these actions. Now, in the name of this operation, we saw that the operation is targeted at people called undocumented. What we refer as undocumented people. And on the other side, you should also say that South Africans or their citizens have a valid concerns that they are raising with regards to the issue that foreign nationals have occupied the places that they ought to have occupied. Can we look into it objectively? Now, one of the operations where ordinary tomato sellers, hawkers on certain streets, were being driven away. And now we saw another political party, EFF, Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, asking the question, if those members of Operation Dudula that has driven these people away from those spots, and these people are the kind of ordinary people, for example, if you got home, you forgot something from the supermarket, the next door seller can easily provide you this service. Have any South African gone to occupy those spaces that those foreigners were driven out? Those were legitimate questions some of the political parties are asking. You said I'm occupying your space. That is because that I'm occupying the space as a foreigner, that you are not given the opportunity to occupy the same space. And now I'm driven out. Tomorrow morning, there is no one, no citizen who has gone to start selling or providing those services. And that also begs the question of the ingenuity of the operation itself. Is it really a question that the foreigners are taking spaces? Or is it a question that we do not want you people? And let me put this correctly. White foreigners are not targeted. So when we say foreigners, the operation is targeted at Africans. And now the question is, we are supposed to be working at a particular place, but we cannot work because you've hired a foreign national. There's a different angle to those debates. And when you hire a foreign national, remember there are laws that govern employment in South Africa. There are immigration laws. If you hire undocumented or illegal immigrant, it's a crime. And you found working without proper documentation is also a crime. So, but we'll get to that. But what is the government's stand on all this? The people or the set of groups that sell the idea also to the government to say, maybe it's true that the foreigners are taking spaces that are meant for our people, then let's get them out of the way. And in terms of the Immigration Act, the immigration laws are channeled in a way that it is only the skillful people that are needed in South Africa. If you do not have exceptional skills, we don't want you. So if the government is not coming out to condemn the actions of these people, and the police or security agencies backs them up during each of the operations, then one can safely conclude that it is also part of the government's agenda.
Yes. I would like to come in there. Okay. Now, but if you are saying that it's part of the government's agenda, whatever is going on there, then definitely it will affect South Africa's economic relationship with other countries. So do you have one or two things to say about that?
Indeed. The diplomatic relationship.
In the 21st century's technological advancement, we all seek opportunities to move and network with the emerging space. Introducing Clevenard blog and event posting. Do you think you have some interesting materials, good content, articles, and stories? Then feel free to publish them on Clevenard blog and events page, just as team of our writers are doing presently. By blogging on Clevenard's blogs and events, you benefit from our reach and network. There are a constant stream of people visiting our social platform, and we have figured out just how to distribute our contents. This means you can basically skip the line and get access to a big audience from day one. Furthermore, we can help you get in touch with important people for projects with possibilities of translating your content into other languages and republishing them on Clevenard. This helps preserve and protect your content from getting lost. What's more, you also get to be part of our team with access to our network and lots of exclusives, behind-the-scenes information. And of course, you get full credit for everything you do, which brings you popularity and make extra income. Sign up now on Clevenard.com and start blogging to your advantage. Please see the tutorial video on how to blog or post events on Clevenard blogs and events. For more information, contact info@clevenard.com +34 631 279811. Website www.clevenard.com. Clevenard, your blogs, your identity.
All right, you're welcome back. So we're discussing how, okay, the Operation Dudula affects the economic relationship with other countries of within South Africa and other countries. Barrister, I need you to continue from there.
Thank you. Branka, you see, the diplomatic relationship between South Africa and other nations are built on mutual respect of the laws that governs those nations. Now, in order to answer that question correctly, the South African government, for example, would tell Nigerian counterparts, diplomatic counterparts, that if your people are found on our soil, amongst other things, they ought to respect the laws of this nation and all its regulations. The diplomatic or the consular services will only step in when there are complaints that people are being maltreated or humiliated without just cause. Now, there is a law in South Africa, laws that governs migrants, immigrants of this nation. One of those laws are the Immigration Act, Act 13 of 2002, as amended in 2004. This particular act or law are designed for people who proposes to migrate to South Africa to live or work. It regulates how they should conduct themselves when they are here. The kind of visas, different kind of visas. Now, if you watch the Minister of Home Affairs speaking on the other occasion, it will say some people came on a visitor's visa just as tourists, and thereafter they take advantages of the lacuna in the law and they decide to reside in the country. But that is not a problem if you follow the due process to regularize your stay in the country. For example, in the past, the consular services of Ghana appointed me to look into the issue of any of their citizens that were arrested. I should look into it and give them a report if indeed they do have papers or documentations to be in the country. And if indeed they do have documentation to be in the country, legally so, and they are being unduly harassed because they are foreigners, then the consular services or diplomatic services steps up to address those issues. But you see, a situation whereby a consular services are being called, and when they go to the scene, they can see that you've been in the country illegally without proper documentations or way to legitimize your stay in the country. And that becomes a problem for the host nation as well as the embassies to step in. Then that is one aspect of it, of the issue. So the mutual respect. Now South Africa say, no, you are undocumented. You are undocumented. You've been in the country illegally, so despite that, you also sought for employment Now, in the main core of Operation Dudula, first in their first agenda is to wipe out those foreign migrants without proper documentation. One of the arguments were that if you are not properly documented, that you can commit a crime in the country and no one has a trace of your whereabouts. The person is like a ghost, untraceable.
All right, Barrister, you said one of the fights of Operation Dudula is how to drive out those undocumented migrants. But with what the record we've gotten so far, how do you differentiate between the documented and the ones that are not documented? Because almost everybody is becoming should I say, involved in the fight itself. How do they know which one is documented and which one is not documented?
Okay, that is the difference between what the government agencies are saying vis-a-vis what the ordinary people are saying. The ordinary people are saying all foreigners are our problem. But now the government, based on the law and the intellectuals, people who understand, to say no, not all foreigners are the problem. So there is a different understanding and coloration of the Operation Dudula. The government stance on Operation Dudula, that we are backing Operation Dudula, is that if you are undocumented, for example, the saga that happened, a senior hospital manager walked up to a particular Zimbabwean and told a Zimbabwean that this hospital does not know you. During the fiscal year of budgeting, there are budgets because we budget for our people based on the statistics. That is the argument. On the statistics, when we give a government to say, in this region, in this state, in this province, we are at least 20,000 people or 50,000 people. Then when the budget of that particular state comes, and out of the 20,000 citizens, we do have maybe 3,000 documented foreigners or residents. Then based on that, budgets are given. But you come into the country, you are not documented. And that is the argument of the part of the intellectuals to say, you are not documented, you are not counted in the budget, you are like a ghost. And now you are taking the space of the citizens in the service delivery. That is why people are crying that we are not delivering service to them. That is why the citizens are saying that our policies are not working, because half of the populations or people who come here are not documented, and they occupy spaces of the people. So indirectly, that's what the government is also buying the idea, legitimizing the operation to say, that is a valid point in what people are saying. If that is how it is, can we be able to know the actual foreigners who are properly documented, who have a legal document to be in the country? That is the argument of the intellectuals and the government. But the ordinary citizens do not know the difference between documented and undocumented. Yeah, so that's a need.
So it becomes a case of every migrant being the crook or the criminal now.
Exactly.
Being an enemy.
Exactly. So now, how does it impact on everyone? It impacts on everyone, whether documented or undocumented. Because when you are stopped on the road, hence I was likening to an appetite, you need to carry a pass. Wherever you are stopped, you need to carry papers. So
I think Barrister will come to that. My next question is actually that. So, but I would like to ask is in a different way. Okay, social exclusion. That's what we are trying to explain. So, how does social exclusion affect a society?
Say it again.
Social exclusion. Okay. It's exactly what you were trying to explain. I just wanted to bring in the question. Okay, so how does social exclusion affect a society, or let's say a society like a South Africa? Let's use the South African example now.
Yes. In terms of the law, that's what we call the Citizenship Act, the Immigration Act, as well as the Refugees Act. If you are a foreigner and you attain a particular status, then you can be able to benefit some social amenities, even some social grants. Like we have not discussed the refugees and asylum seekers. Then you are accommodated to enjoy certain social benefits in the country. If, for example, you're a permanent resident holder, you are not entitled to vote, but however, you are entitled to other social benefits that a citizen can get except the voting rights. Now, if you go to the hospital, you are expected, because there is a free health services in South Africa. We applaud South Africa. It's a beautiful country. There's a free health services. You are expected it to produce documentation in order for you to be categorized within the social amenities that you can benefit. For example, if you're an asylum seeker or a refugee, you are not expected to pay, and it is a free medical attention all throughout. Then if you are on a visitor's visa, you are expected to at least have some traveling allowance in order to access private medical attentions. Now, the argument says, for example, we take the medical attention into account. The people are saying, no, our people cannot longer be attended. We have people here because, when you are sick, you are sick. We have people here, they got into the country illegally, no documentation. Some entered with visas. They are supposed to seek private medical attention. And now...
Yeah, but... All right, thank you. I've gotten that. People fight against people that are not documented. Is there a better way of driving out these people that are not documented than inflicting injuries on almost all the entire set? Is there a better way of doing that?
The only better way, as a practitioner, I deal with this case almost every day. Every day. For example, even if you are documented, if an immigration officer stops you, the Immigration Act empowers them within their discretion to detain you in order for them to confirm the documentation. Now, it is a discretion. Now, they do not carry a gadget on the way. For example, say, okay, where is your paper? Let's scan it immediately and confirm if you are documented or you are not documented. Even if you have a paper, the documentation might not be legit. Now, they can decide to lock such person up until the documentations are confirmed. Now, that is a major problem. That's how it affects everyone, whether documented or not documented. If there is an operation now or a roadblock and you identify as a foreigner, there is no guarantee that on presentation of the paper you can be allowed. The officer can decide to say, okay, now I'm putting you behind bars until I verify this. The only way or proposition to the government to say, if there are machine readers card, when you present your document, they can verify at the spot or be able to call a standby officers to verify to avoid legal and documented people being put behind bars. There are many times I've dealt cases where documented people are put behind bars. Imagine if it's on a weekend, maybe you are arrested on a Friday night, you have to spend Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, and it's only on Monday within 48 hours. You can be charged to court in order for the document to be verified. And sometimes, if the document is not verified, the matter might be postponed. So, basically, there's a real problem. There's a lot of undocumented. Listen, there's a lot of undocumented. And most of them.
But, yeah, but I'm sorry, I have to come in there because in every country, I think we have one or two of these people, undocumented people, everywhere. In Nigeria, Liberia, even in the US, definitely you can still find them there. So I'm just like trying to think of what will happen if everybody start trying to push out these undocumented people. But let's leave that for the meantime and let's get back to the economic justice. Okay, because there are some exponents that believe that the war that should be fought in South Africa is that of economic and justice. Okay, now you said earlier in the course of the discussion that the whites, which is the foreigners, controls a larger amount of the economy in South Africa. Okay, now how does economic justice come to play there?
Okay, the real problem why the foreigners are targeted, as I said earlier, is because of the economic imbalance. Yes.
So how do we create the balance?
Yes. In the South African Constitution, there's what we call affirmative action. Affirmative action was introduced to cure what we call unequal balance, unequal opportunity. For example, as I was saying that the foreigners are the one targeted, the fight are taken to foreigners and wrong people. The fight was redirected to the wrong people instead of the right people that the fight should be targeted to. Now, after dismantling of apartheid, and the political powers was given to the blacks of South Africans, then the economic powers was still retained by the white people. Lands and other things were still retained. Now, affirmative action was built in a way that if it's a black-owned, that's what we call BEE, actions, that was introduced in order to ensure that if you're a white person seeking for a job and you are from a white background and you must wait for a black person to be first given that opportunity, if it's a tender or a project, a black person, in fact, black women comes first. So it's okay, since you have benefited in the past, just hold on here. Let these people come of age. This program has been in existence for more than 2 decades, more than 20 years ago. But it has not helped. It has not helped. Now, the question is, when
Go ahead.
Yes. The question then will become, when will this inequality become balanced? And how does it become balanced? And the reason for President Dudula is they think, okay, we are trying to balance things and you are coming into the equation. So,
but if you're talking about balance here, whose responsibility is it to balance things? Is it the government or the people itself, or the Operation Dudula itself?
It's actually the government and the people. For example, if you are given an opportunity as a black person, if you are given an opportunity as a black person and you did not take care of those opportunities and it slipped out of your way, if government has done their part, and as a citizen you have refused to do your part, that is the different view from the foreigner to say, no, the opportunities are here. For example, I was chatting with one professor, I will not mention the name, from a particular university. Yes, he says to me, before we came into the system, this particular university was underrated. It was not within the rank of the universities in Africa because it's not part of the top researchers or research university. Because of that is the ranking. Then we came in and worked tooth and nail as foreigners. And this university, for example, got higher rankings, became top of the list in Africa. Now, the question is, where was the black South African? And why? Now, that is the question now. Now, that question goes to it is really the problem of the government or the people themselves? The attitude of the people is that, no, since this is a new South Africa, government, you need to deliver everything to our doorsteps. Another question should be, why would an employer choose to employ a foreigner and not a citizen? Those are real questions. So now the government will have done their part, and if the people has not done their part, there will still be the gap of that inequality. It will never be balanced, and will keep repeating.
Definitely. But now, what is the place of local content, developing local content and to curtail this trend? Because definitely, if you have more industries coming into the system, there won't be a crowd of people saying that there are not enough jobs to go around. Okay, so what do you think is the place of the developing local content in South Africa that will help curtail the trend?
I can tell you, I've been here for more than 16 or 17 years. South Africans love their local content. Most of what are consumed in this country, let me say 80% of them are locally made. Wow, the problem, from my perspective, is not job availability. It is not job unavailability. It is the readiness of the people, the citizens, to work and to compete. So there's no one competition.
It's all right. Thank you, Barrister. Barrister Smart. It's been over 40 minutes of this discussion, and we're gradually wrapping up the program for today. But I would like you to leave a last word for the government of South Africa, for the people of South Africa, and also for the Operation Dudula initiatives in South Africa. Just in 2 minutes, let's just wrap it up. Give us the last word.
Say again?
I said, we'd like to get a last word for the government and the people of South Africa.
My last word or advice from the legal point of view is that if you're a foreigner in this country, ensure that you do everything within your power, even if it warrants getting a loan, to see that you are documented. This is for the advice to the foreigners, to see that you are documented. Then the consular services, the diplomatic services can now, and the human rights lawyers can now be available for you when you are then victimized unlawfully. Because if you are not in the system and you are victimized, then there will be just cause. Even if you are more victimized, that is advice for the foreigners. Now, the advice to the government is, most of the cases I've dealt with, the deportation camps are full. The borders are poor. If you really, really want to curtail illegal migrants, there's no any nation that says doesn't have illegal migrants that are not documented. Migrants that are not documented. The real advice to the government is spend more on security on the borders. Strengthen your borders. That is one. Number two is let there be a proper structure for prosecuting and fast tracking, because most of undocumented people that have been, sometimes some of them spend beyond the prescribed limit of the law in prison. And we then sue the government for unlawful detention. And at the end of the day, this person or groups are being released again into the system. Sometimes there are no budgets to deport the people. They spend time in prison and they are released back into the system. And the immigration laws are now tougher for them to be reintegrated into the system. My appeal to the government of South Africa is, if immigration laws can be relaxed, for example, take example Dubai. If you want visa, you can pay for how many days you want to stay in Dubai. The government can also relax the visas regulations. You stay, you pay. Do not put a top stringent on acquiring the visa for people. Then it results them becoming illegal. If the immigration laws are too tough, some of them cannot meet them, then it results them meeting scrupulous immigration agents. At the end of the day, so let me drop this as I close, as a closing remark. Not all undocumented people wish to be undocumented. Some of them,
definitely.
Yes, some of them is as a result of also economic situations. Some of them have been robbed by agents who pretend to be immigration agents. Yes. So, other things that need to be looked into. Now, to my fellow South Africans and the citizens of this country, my appeal to them is that Africans are not the problem. African does not hold even 3% of the economic power of this nation. The people who hold the economic powers are the former colonial masters. They should really ask the government for more proactive policies that will ensure that dividends democracy are being delivered. Yes. And also to ensure that finally that thank you very much.
Is that Barrister? I think that's much time we can take on this program. Thank you so much for being our guest this afternoon. You've done so well to the justice to the topic of discussion. I do hope to have you back one of these days in the studio. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, and viewers, that's where we draw the curtain for today. Please don't forget to keep signing up on www.clevenard.com. I remain Frank Khalide with that saying bye till next time.